Topic Kids Family Connect, KFC. Did you like that idea? But I have added an N there so that there won't be any branding problems. So it's KFC for best curricular career choices. Shall we move? Very quickly, there's a generation that has come under different pressures. Before COVID also these pressures were there. COVID accentuated the pressures. Main issue that we need to get back on track is to see that dad is champion and captain at home. He often is champion in the corporate or in academics, but we want to get dad back home. Shall we raise a real Argalia cry and say, get dad back home? Shall we say that together, ladies? Get dad back home. Get dad back home. Are you recollecting some scenes? Yes, so we want to get dad back home. There's a generation that's pure in their eyes, but they get into different issues. There's a generation who's lofty and their eyelids are always looking for more, and sometimes too fantastic. Recently I had a consultation from a 15-year-old girl who is a smart girl, but she looked very distressed, and when they came to meet me, her face was down and she looked angry. So I sat at my consultation table. Incidentally, I was head of Department of Pharmacology, and the digitization changes the brain chemistry and the brain neuronal patterns. So it's not just a fad that happens that will pass away. Once it sets in, it's a neurochemical and a neurological problem. Before we go there, we want to prevent it, isn't it? Best is prevention. Second is, without the child being too much into the problem, to get the child out of it. So I sat down at my consultation table, and this father was very engaging with the problem. So I asked her, what is your favorite subject at school? Which is my first question in this field. She screamed and said, I hate all my subjects. Then the dad got worried because I'm supposed to be a medical consultant and the daughter was so rude. I told him, don't worry, I'll handle it. Then I asked her, then what do you like? She said, I like fantasy writing. I said, what do you write about? She said, I write on planets that have not been found. So she's completely fantastic. Her virtual reality has really shifted to virtual unreality. And then a question was popped in my mind. I think God did that question. Ask her, what do you have a pet? So I asked her, do you have a pet? I said, do you like pets? Again she erupted and said, I hate my mother. She killed my 3 kittens. I said, what happened? She found 3 kittens in the drain outside, and she wanted all of them in the bedroom. As you know, kittens are not trainable the way dogs can be trained. And all these 3 kittens, they adopted into her bedroom. From where? From the drain. So rightly mom said, you can't have them in the bedroom. And they died one after the other. So it was a tense situation. But over about 40 minutes of consultation, I was able to get her back on school subjects. And she went home more sane, reconciled child. This is not an isolated case. I can give you many incidents of this nature why parents come to seek my consultation. But when I accepted your principal's invitation, I was also in the midst of negotiating with SLMA, Sri Lanka Medical Association. They have asked me to write 2 articles in quick succession on the problem, because 35% of psychiatric consultations are for kids under 19. Never before in the medical history do you have kids under 19 making up over 1/3 of psychiatric consultations. And unfortunately in our system, all psychiatric consultations end up with prescriptions, which is a long valley, virtually with no return. There are few psychiatrists like Professor Shahan Williams and Dr. Lalith Mendis who will not prescribe too soon. We don't have a well-developed clinical psychologist discipline in Sri Lanka, simply because our GMO is so difficult to deal with. So we need to develop the discipline where we can attend on kids without prescribing. Drugs is not the first line of therapy when a child has distress like this. So parents, please, when you have to go to a consultation, don't go see a psychiatrist who will quickly prescribe a drug. You must avoid at all cost kids being put on psychiatric drugs for attention disorders and for personality difficulties. Can we have a vote on that? Yeah. So please move to non-pharmacological therapy. There are enough people to go for it. If you need to consult me, my consultations are free, so you can come and see me. Our place is called the Empathic Learning Center. So we move to the next slide. So effort is to get you to be the therapist. This is what we are promoting with SLMA. Parents to be the therapist, and you can be well trained and you are well positioned to give the children the needed scientific direction. Very quickly, the digital stimulant effect has 5 components. Time length of exposure to the digital screen. When the child is on the screen more than 30 minutes, the child's brain will have effects that will not stop after the child stops the screen. Though the screen has stopped, her brain goes on with the screen stimulation. So longer a child is on screen, longer the child's brain going to be screen affected. So there are practical things you can do when the child has to be online for studies. One, I have not brought that slide, so can you sort of feel as if you have come to a tuition class and you have to take down notes? Yeah. So if you have a pen and a paper, Dad, please take down your notes. At least try to remember. I'll make this available with the school so that you can pass it on to them. Any other thing you need to check with me, you can send a WhatsApp to this WhatsApp number you see on the screen, 0742115011. Very quickly, when the child is on the screen, train the child not to look at the screen if possible. Look away from the screen and only listen. Then to use not use LED lights along with the screen, because LED lights have blue frequency and it adds to the pixel screen's blue frequency. Blue frequency works against memory and works against sleep. So you have to reduce the blue frequency concentration in the house, especially where the child studies. This may involve removing some LED lights, so you have to get ready for that. Always give the child a laptop rather than a PPI intense smartphone or smart gadget. Will you give a wave on that? Get a laptop rather than what is called a smart gadget, because they have a high pixels per inch rate and they digitize more than a laptop. And the laptops have a night mode, so you can reduce the blue frequency input more. So pixels per inch of the smartphone has a great effect. Rate of pixel change in the program, intensity and variability of sound and color. So when a child is studying, the child must not be on music. I repeat, when a child is studying, the child must not be on music. They will say, Mom, when I am on music, I can sit in one place. Yes, they will sit in one place when on music, but they are not studying. Because music is absorbed by the temporal lobe and studies are absorbed by the prefrontal cortex. You can't do two together. What you can encourage is them to actually play an instrument. Stringed instruments are the best for brain brilliance. Flute is also good, violin or guitar. Keyboards are also okay. But if you put a child pretty young into playing a string instrument and sing with the instrument, that's the best. But during studies, they must not listen to music. Can we have a vote on that? We are catching up on all the votes we could not vote. Yeah. So, time exposure of the screen, if it is after 6 p.m., it affects the melatonin secretion of the brain more, and melatonin is involved in sound sleep, and it is after 6 p.m. what we have studied during the day moves from RAM memory to permanent memory in the brain. So unfortunately now tuition classes go on at 10 o'clock also, I think at 11 o'clock also. It is actually counterproductive. For every 1 hour of tuition, child must have 2 hours of thinking time for herself. Otherwise she will not study. I don't know how we are going to work this out. For every 1 hour of tuition, child must have 2 hours of study time by herself. Otherwise she can't study. Listening to tuition is not studying. It's important input, but the input has to be put into the child's system by herself, connection, collation, summarizing, and be able to recall and apply. That's the study process. And that study process goes on after 6 p.m. without the screen. So to the extent you put the child on the screen, even for necessary studies, it's a problem. But I understand with this drivenness and catch up, and schools are also anxious, parents are also anxious, online studies have increased, but they have their own problem. Then while on the online screen for studies, keep this Lanupadura, you know what a Lanupadura is? Like wire woven piece of carpet under the child's feet, so that the child, you train the child to rub up the Lanupadura, because that friction and the gatiti thing works on the brain to remove the digital effect of the screen. Did you understand that? So even when the child is at playtime, to keep a Lanupadura and hang a cricket ball and go for it, you know, I suppose girls can play cricket, isn't it? It's all right, isn't it, for girls to play cricket? And it's good to have a leather ball hanging, because that tick-tock, ball returning and taking aim while the child is treading the Lanupadura is one of the best ways of getting the digitization out of the child's brain. Did you understand that? So you can prop it up at school, you know, all of us hung a ball and played cricket inside the house, and best part of cricket is inside the house. So you have to encourage this home gym kind of situations, because children are so confined without extracurricular activities. Then if they munch while eating, munch while studying, things like pera or apple, it reduces the digitizing effect. I don't like to suggest chewing gum because it's a horrible habit, but munch a crunchy thing and using tweeters on the hands while the child is studying. Now these are medical prescription, not medical really, but practical prescription to get the digitizing effect while the child is studying on the online screen. Okay? Then while on the screen, try to teach them not to multitask, because they go from chatting, Snapchat, Instagram, this, that and the other. However much you say, they will do it. So don't fight the child, but somehow distract the fellow. Boys do anything for food. I don't think with girls it goes like that. If you give them some food at the time they are studying, they are easily distractible. But girls get far more addicted to the screen because of certain neurochemical changes that they go through. So when a girl is addicted, it's a greater problem. So most of my serious cases have been girl addictions. Then I have to work with them carefully, slowly, with understanding, never embarrassing them. We have, in my session of nearly 30-40 minutes that I have to take with parents, I get parents to come on the side of the child, and especially for dad to own the problem. When it is daily safe, its mother makes it daily safe. When things go wrong, dad has to come in and own the problem. Now dads have this issue of being there when the child is first in the prize giving and winning the prizes at the sports meet. But the thing gets smelly, it automatically becomes the mom's problem. So this has to change, because when a problem arises, dad has to own the problem. Do you feel persecuted? Do you feel you'll go home and you'll get it? So please listen to me from an expert. I think I'm quite a senior citizen and I'm quite senior in the field. You have to own the problem, and a big change comes. Across my table, a big change comes. When the dad begins to own the problem, the child gets confidence that the problem will be solved. So please be the therapist. Sleep deprivation is a serious issue with attention disorders and the personality changes they go through. Somehow get them to sleep latest by 11 o'clock. You have to. And then somehow negotiate with them not to take the digital gadget into the bedroom. Don't fight it, but negotiate with them somehow to not allow the child to take the digital gadget to the bedroom. Similarly, no bedroom TV. And Prof. Shehan, he's my student, he somehow gets parents not to give the smartphone till O-level is over. I think you did the same, isn't it? Yeah. Even in A-level, if you can get them to use the smartphone minimally, otherwise it affects their curricular potential terribly. And if you allow your child, or if the child gets into using the smartphone before the age of 13, all their future curricular potential is negated, because brain makes new tracks only up to the age of 13. We have to work with the study tracks we have made up to the age of 30. So more diverse the brain activity is with sports, exercise, book reading, better our brain curricular potential for future studies. Brain can refresh itself, but the IQ potential can't be increased. You might be born brilliant, but you have to be trained brilliant. I think that's one of my book slogans. Train brilliant, yes. Shall we move to the next? This is very quickly how we and kids live for 1 hour. We start with intention, navigation, successful in conclusion, well done. That's the salience. Work to a focus done by dopamine. We have to keep that child's training going like that. Every hour a new initiation, navigation, successful in conclusion, well done, reward. Who says well done? The child's inside says well done. I studied well. I grasped it well. I absorbed this section well. So the salience comes from dopamine. Automatically at the end of 45 minutes, it changes to serotonin. That gives you a sense of reward, well done. Also it gives you a sense of check back and see where you need to improve. So it's not only a curricular habit, it becomes a character habit. Understood? After 45 minutes, check back to see to improve. And you are improving yourself, and you are saying you can improve. That's how God has designed our brain. And if you are on the screen, if the child is on the screen, dopamine doesn't stop. Dopamine keeps increasing, and the dopamine receptors shift from physiological DA1 to addictive DA2. So then the child wants to do the same thing, and they lose sense of time. Now when we have been on this default mode network of thought, hour by hour, in 3-4 hours we know we have spent about 3-4 hours without looking at the clock. Because there's an invert clock that works like that. That's why school periods are set in a certain way. Now when the child is on the digital screen, the dopamine increases and he wants to only do the same thing again and again. And if mom says, darling, you have been on the screen for 3 hours, he will say, what rubbish, I just started. Because that's how he feels. And when that has happened, they are not thinking of doing another thing, they are thinking of doing the same thing. And add to that digital sounds, weird music and stuff, they are completely fantasized and they can't get into the prefrontal cortex and the study pattern. So you are in for drama at home, Because brain has now become dramatic, looking for always a thrill, a peril, and the child has moved to fright, flight, fight mode. So they are pugilistic, belligerent, their language is harsh, violent, they are always ready for up for a fight mode. Before going there, we need to change, isn't it? So please don't fight with them. You will not win the fight, you will lose the child. And they can very easily get on to doing drastic things. I have parents coming with suicidal children. I have had calls from parents whose children were suicidal at home. So quickly there are a few things you can do to break that cycle, but we don't have to go there, and you need to be watchful before that. Consider it a issue that you need to tackle. Next slide, please. These are the two tracks of our brain. Number one is the normal top-down regulation, executive, empathic, reflective, creative, initiation, navigation, and conclusion, reward, and decision-making track to study or to work. When you are too much on the digital screen doing the same thing, you shift to a bottom-up regulation where you have dyspathy, you don't like what you do, you don't like what you feel, it's all anti-reward related, you are impulsive, repetitive, and you are always feeling morose. This happens this happens to people who are on post-traumatic stress disorder also. When you have gone through a trauma and you have not recovered, you operate on this track. So the child who is too digitized is also on this track. So she lives in a hostile world. She interprets things as against her. Am I too technical? Anything you say, she feels it's against her. So be aware when you speak, to speak slowly with a plan to get her on your side by being on her side. It doesn't mean she's right, but you have to do the Jesus thing, get into the pit to get her out of the pit. Doctors can't do it. Drugs can't do it. Clinical psychologists can help. But ultimately, parents have to be the therapist. Good news or bad news? This is a completely new field. We are also lost. How to handle 35% of psychiatric appointments that are under 19? What are the kids up to under 19 have? What serious problems do they have that parents have to take kids to psychiatrists at this rate, isn't it? And I have seen kids 12 years old on 9 drugs. Pharmacological oxymorons. But you get a whole lot of young fellows who are trigger happy with drugs. Sadly, that's our profession. But you have to protect your child, isn't it? So please take courage that this can be done. You can be therapists. There's help available. Engage the problem gradually, seriously, with empathy. You can win. Shall we say together? You can win. Don't feel lost and defeated before you begin. You can win. We have seen through many children, that's why I speak with this confidence. Every child and every parent's case starts looking desperate. Children come who have cut themselves. So one girl, I asked her, why did you cut yourself, darling? She's the daughter of two teachers. She said, it's like this, doctor. Death is an experience. You have to experience and see. Death, what do you experience and then see what? But their thinking has shifted so much. But we can help them. We can help them. Okay? Next slide. We'll pass that next slide. Consequences on school life: attention span and depth have decreased. Boredom, inability to focus or concentrate. Chronic fatigue syndrome of the young affects girls more. They put their head down even during the period, and they have no more energy to go through the school day because of dopamine depletion. Boys tolerate the onslaught little better because of their testosterone. They can go on becoming active and violent and antisocial, whereas when girls get dopamine depleted, they move to depression. So that's why the girl child is more vulnerable to this present post-COVID changes. Then learning becomes uninteresting, regular is boring, fantastic is the craving, thrill-seeking behavior, recruiting anti-reward systems, pain becomes pleasure, isolated selfie behavior, and so on. Next slide. So that's a problem. So I begin the remedies. I have to go through the pathogenesis and the serious part. If not, you will think this is an easy problem to tackle. This is not an easy problem. Also, it is not that a child is behaving obstinately. Child can't help herself, having got into the situation. So you will understand now, child can't help herself, but you can. You can enter as therapist and own the problem, patiently, daily apply what I am saying. Redeem your meal time, no screen at meal time, not for the dead also. No TV watching at meal time is meal time. Whatever program is going on at meal time, you must do the meal time properly, fix the proper time, 7:30 in the night or whatever, and full concentration on meal time. No family member can eat in the room. Okay? And they can't eat their own meals. They must eat properly dead cooked home meals. That's a sort of, long hope. Home meal gives value, that's why. Okay, once a week buy something from outside, but that home cooked meal gives value to the family gathering, brings back empathy and good old godly family values to the meal table. Increase veggie and fruit. More you crunch at meal time, more they get over the digitized problem. So use your 45 minutes of meal time like therapy time, intentionally. Get ready for it, never miss it, make it the best time in the family. And weekends, all 3 meals, all sit together. Every dinner time, all sit together. Shall we vote on that? Recover the meal time, you break any addiction. Cut down sugar completely. Please don't go out, because all fizzy drinks, sugar drinks, red dye drinks will contribute to the digital addiction. So you have to get sugar out of home. Is it all right? Yeah. Okay, once a week pudding is all right, but this adding sugar to this, that and the other, because it's addictive, addictions feed each other. That's the issue. And caffeine is addictive. So you have to stop the coffee habit if you have to overcome the digitization habit. Now some of you look as if you fainted. This is only if your child is, having a digital issue, attention disorder and character changes. If the child is also on caffeine, it's a problem getting back, where the brain chemistry is so involved, and caffeine is a molecule that attaches to all kinds of brain systems. So you have to be caffeine free. Watch sunset. When the child watches sunset, good for all of us. We get ready for the brain program in the night. Melatonin triggers it. So somehow be outside for sunset, even if you are in an apartment, get the curtains apart and watch sunset intentionally. It does a lot of brain health good. And brain bioclocks getting on properly is the way you prevent diabetes and a whole lot of other things. So watch sunset, give time for sunset, play out in the garden, and it's an excellent thing to have a pet around, do some gardening, expose yourself to the setting sun. That's how melatonin gets triggered. There are all kinds of melatonin things on the internet which I don't believe in. Do the simple things. Then revive nighttime melatonin, sleep by 11 p.m., wake by 5:30, somehow school your kids to get up with morning sunlight. Then bio clocks, get back into diurnal rhythm. And a lot of young people who are breaking rest and getting up late, getting up at 10 in the morning, they awake suddenly with all their bio clocks violated and aggravated. That causes juvenile diabetes and obesity. Lots of kids on the screen too much have medical obesity and diabetes. The two are related to overuse of the screen and the wrong waking up patterns. Please do your best to re-establish it. So in the morning, if dad can make the timetable with before you go to work, take 5 to 10 minutes and say, darling, how is your day going to be? 8 o'clock, now go to school and come back 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. It does not be a strict timetable, but you are encouraging the child to write down what she shall be doing. Can we have a vote on that? So that you have managed the child's time, and that has a parental management thing getting into the child, that every hour she must know what she's going to do. Otherwise, the only thing she knows is she'll be on the screen. Sleep by 11 a.m. Just sleep by 11 up by 5:30 a.m. Do not take digital gadget to bedroom. Remove bedroom TV. No LED lights in the bedroom. Exercise routine. That's for 5:30 p.m. Swimming is the most brain balancing activity. So if you can get the child into swimming, it's a good thing. I told you already about music. Running on homemade sand track. Sand is a geometric particle. You remember we have a sand pit for younger ages. The touching the sand, meddling with the sand, making different things with the sand has a good brain effect. You can recover that for this age also if you have a, let's say, 1.5 feet little track at home, 8 feet long, and on it getting the kid to walk barefoot. It's like walking in the beach. Of course, nothing to beat walking in the beach, which is the best exercise for brain recovery, for detox also. But you can do an innovation at home with sand, and there again to hang the ball and play it while the feet moves on sand. Got it? This is to get back extracurricular habits and little exercise back into a child's life. Adopt a pet. Then we have a thing called Den and Dare. It's an indoor gym with grips and ropes and calisthenics that attends on the brain thing. Our Empathic Learning Center is in Serpentine Road near the Oval. You are free to come and use it once. It provides dad exercise to do with kids. We promote it like that. Write 4 A4 sheets in 2 languages. It's good for all ages. You delay Alzheimer. Write 4 A4 pages in 2 languages, English or Sinhala or Sinhala and Tamil or whatever it is. You get back to writing. More your children write also, more the brain becomes brilliant and study habits improve. So while they are on online study, get them to write notes. This is possible. This is important. More they write, the more brain becomes brilliant. More they read, the more brain becomes brilliant. Best reading is black and white printed book reading is the best reading for brain flexibility and brain pliability. This is what Den and Dare looks like. Grips and ropes. It's low ropes, mid ropes and high ropes. High ropes is done with helmet and harness. This is part of a detox program. They have to do this for 45 minutes daily to get the digital addiction out of their brain. But it's good for any child. to get back study habits and study patterns. Then making puzzles, mechanoset, matty molding, this matty is available now in bookshop, real matty molding, stitching, art, any of those things, what your child may like, get them. It's worth even getting a tuition teacher to do pottery and matty making. These have been my prescriptions depending on what the child likes. Some like art, some like music, depending on what the child likes. Table tennis, carom, board games, keyboards, hymns, then even getting involved with some charity work somewhere so that they become socially conscious, otherwise they become very selfish creatures, caring for nobody, isn't it? Is that all? Yeah. Any questions quickly? Thank you.